Hello there YouTube, I'm Wheelchair21 and on today's rolling review we'll be looking at the S.H.Figuarts Shinkocchou Seihou Kamen Rider Accel, which is actually a figure art I didn't expect to see in the Shinkocchou Seihou line, due to the fact that at first it only seemed to be that it was going to be, first titular Kamen Riders, not the secondary, not upgrades, not even the villains, but that's happening, and honestly, the box art is very nice, very splendid, and honestly, it is a little bit faded. It gives a really faded feel, and it feels a little bit more different than the other riders thus far. I know some of them have this look, but this one just feels even more than in the past. We also have on the back of the box the basic artwork that one will see when putting your figure on display in a professional style with all of its wide range of articulation, kick, sword thrusts. Who cares? Let's get into the interior of this box. Our first layer is obviously your Kamen Rider, and underneath, as I almost actually accidentally opened up the entire thing, is your accessory count. Now the cool thing about freaking Accel is he has 5 pairs of additional hands. He has the engine blade, 2 Gaia memories up here, Accel and engine, as well as an additional head. This additional head we'll look at a little bit closer and later in the review, which features a very nice light up effect. Pretty much it's painted to look like the actual spotlight engine light of his compound mono eye glows, and it looks very wonderful. Now here we have our figure art out of the package, and the Shinkocchou Seihou Accel looks wonderful and it looks great. One thing I do love about the Seihous is how much more accurate they are to the on-screen suit than any of the previous incarnations of Figuarts. One of the reasons why I actually don't own the original version of Accel is because that figure art looked very anime-like. It was very slender, very sleek, and a lot of the proportions were very, streamlined to make it look like it was a realistic or almost unrealistic body mold. Whereas this one, the armor is bulky and matches the suit, all the details are accurate, and even the colors are almost 100% the right shade compared to the original, which had a more brighter, I would say, Torino-esque red, whereas this one has a nice, beautiful cherry fire engine red. This is what I love the most about it, was the beautiful red and silver that ran throughout the actual Accel suit. Now, someone's going to say, Wheels, you hate Kamen Rider Double, but I've always loved the aesthetics that went into the suits and the overall designs. And Accel's was probably one of my favorite suits in the entire series, aside from Eternals and Skulls. And as one can see, like I said, the details just run rampant for the actual areas that are supposed to become the motorcycle, like in his breastplate, in his arms, down his legs, the back of his thighs, his calves, his feet, and the overall look to the areas that will be his motorcycle if he actually could transform into one. One thing I do like is the fact that the wheels that are on him are actually hard static pieces. I almost said stoic, but that's actually a character explanation or character description. And I actually like that this is the only one that kind of rotates just ever so slightly, which is kind of interesting, like that this wheel is the only one that really rotates. Really nice features that are added in. The actual Accel driver is by far one of the most accurate versions we've ever had on a release thus far, as well as the fact that you can take out the little miniature Accel Gaia memory is frickin' splendid. Now, one cool thing is his actual ace, or his A, on the top of the freaking helmet is splendid. It's wonderful, really good. The points of articulation are really solid and really stiff. Like, oh my god. Like, these shoulders are so dang tight. The biceps, even tighter. But the worst is really his hips. Like, these things you can actually hear on the microphone. They're just very loud. I can't believe how well they pop. And the knees, one knee is actually a little bit looser than the other. I actually spent probably a few good minutes before the review trying to make sure every area could be loose enough to be shown on this video. However, some areas are still tighter than others. Honestly, I gotta say, the ankle joint put into this figure art is probably one of the newest versions I've seen thus far, which combines a little bit of the elements from the original Figuarts as well as the current pin friction, like knees, or I should say ankles. Like, really good work on this ankle overall to give you more of a more solid boot than we've ever had thus far, whereas others would just use a basic freaking ball joint and socket just to get that frickin' done, which is good that they were able to implement both into one. Now, his overall accessory count first off features his additional head, which honestly is the same sculpt, a few differences between the two. One is really just the actual painted features in the overall mask in the compound eyes to give it that actual headlight, that activation-like light. And the thing that's different about it is the fact that I would say the plastic is a little bit clearer, and shades of paint that go into it, with the light blues and whites that really run throughout the actual mask right here. Very nice and great. Now, the one thing that I said is different is actually more about the engineering compared to other Figuarts thus far, and it's that it uses an actual ball joint itself to plug into the neck and body. This is very different than most of the Figuarts we've had to date, due to the fact that most of the times we have to plug the ball joint into the head itself, and it can almost be like a spare helmet on the side, similar to like what Power Rangers do when they remove their helmets on screen. So with this new engineering, it might piss off some people who like to do custom displays of the character holding their helmet while having like a resin-made head sculpt put onto the body. However, I think this is a lot more solid and will help with the transition when having to plug in a new accessory, or just say an additional head to swap out the entire aspect and look. It's just more solid, I think, personally. The next accessory is obviously the engine blade, which really looks good. I think every engine blade thus far have had really exceptional molds and details and paint put on them and used on them to make them look splendid and very screen accurate. However, unlike a majority of the previous incarnations ever released, this one actually cocks similar to like a gun. This one actually can be opened and closed, and you can actually load in a Gaia memory, which is really freaking good. Which means I have to show the freaking engine freaking Gaia memory. Now, the engine Gaia memory is very small, as you can see that I need to literally like hold it very slightly or very so tightly so I don't lose it or drop it. Now, as one can see, the actual thing does have almost like a sticker on it with the letter E on it. That's how freaking nuts these Gaia memories freaking are. And to load it into your freaking engine blade, all you gotta do is just find the tab that it locks into and slide it in. Now, I don't know how good it's going to be getting it out, but it does lock into place, and you can recreate all of your freaking maximum drives. It's evaluation time, and for my final evaluation, Shinkocchou Seihou Kamen Rider Accel is actually a very wonderful Figuart. Now, honestly, I love all the Seihous that I own and I think that have been released as of to date, due to the fact that, one, they use a lot of digital printing and digital sculpting to make these figures more accurate than we've ever had them, and it's sort of actually inkling out into the regular Figuarts line. Now, for their price, they are a little more expensive and almost exclusive level prices, due to the fact that most of these Figuarts range anywhere between $48 to like $65, and that's before adding some store discounts, whether you go to like say AmiAmi or Hobby Link Japan to own them. For its accessory count, it's limited, but right to the point, needing your engine blade, both your Gaia memories, axle, as well as engine, as well as giving you 5 pairs of additional hands, and the additional head, which is currently being on display, but it's kind of hard to see with the lighting and with the lens that I'm using right now. Honestly, no matter what, I think people are going to like to have this either mint in box or out on open display. To me, it doesn't really matter. I could have this out on display for an entire week, or I could put it back in my box and enjoy it, no matter what. I will say, though, due to the, I should say, quality of the tight joints and the actual metallic paint used, handle it with care, because if you're being a little finicky and fussy with trying to make sure your limbs move and actually get into the position you want, you can actually damage your paint. Now, I've only made probably a few nicks and scratches. However, luckily enough, they're not that visible on this review, nor any of the footage that I've seen thus far. So I think by having it on open display, all you gotta do is just be careful, and you should be freaking fine. As well as, if you like Kamen Rider Double, or just like the designs like I do, you're probably gonna want to get every freaking one thus far. Which is kind of ironic that I love the suits, love the gimmick, but didn't really enjoy the show. That's just me, but nevertheless, though, I do recommend that people get it. And you don't really need to trade up your original, but you might want to consider it if you want to have that extra bit of cash just to get this newer, updated version. Anyways, I'm Wilcher21, and if you like this review, check it out here on my YouTube channel or over at HeroClub.com or HeroTaku.com. You can follow me on Twitter, as well as Facebook and Instagram, and I will see you all next time.